He's the man, he's the myth, he's the legend, he's the scientist with all the answers and all the questions. It's time for another episode of Alex's Science Corner.
Thank you. No, please.
And he really means it. No, please.
No, stop, please. Enough, thank you.
Alex, what's going on in the wide, wide world of science, my friend?
Well, there's one really big news article for this week. I was actually going to talk about zombie stars, but on March 14th, Stephen Hawking passed away. Stephen Hawking was a very famous theoretical physicist. He was born in England. He was an English physicist. One of the things about him that many people know is he was an early age diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, and they expected him to live. Yes, they expected him to live for only about 2-3 years, and that was in like 73, 74 that
he
they
lived
diagnosed
for 55 years with.
Well, yeah, because he passed away. He was 76 years old when he passed away. And on March 14th, when he passed away, that's also known as Pi Day, because 3.14. And there's also...
Oh, I did not know that.
And Albert Einstein's birthday is March 14th.
Oh, so he chose an interesting day to pass away.
Yeah,
It'll now be known as Stephen Hawking's day.
I'm not sure if he chose that
day. I think there's a little less, I don't think he had it in his calendar for that day. So
I don't know.
Let me back up here for 1 second. So he did some interesting things, got a lot of awards. One thing people may be interested to know is that Stephen Hawking's never won the Nobel Prize.
And he won't now because you can't.
No, you can't win it if you can only win it if you're still alive.
Yeah.
And one thing I did want to talk about was one of his main theories they came up with. And it's named after him. It's called Hawking radiation. I'm going to try to do this without any math because Brian asked me to, but I wasn't expecting to do any math for it anyway.
Math is hard.
Yeah.
What? Math is not hard,
said the accountant.
We're not looking for a discussion. We're just...
Jeez.
So this was Stephen Hawking's one of his big contributions to science. Hawking radiation, how to describe it? To describe it very, very simply is he figured out that black holes can evaporate. Now, many people think of something going into a black hole and nothing ever coming out, but he was able to figure out that black holes can evaporate, and that is one of the reasons why they suspect why you don't see small black holes. You'll see large black holes, but you won't see small ones because the small ones evaporate away. If you've got a star or a black hole at least the size of our star, that is evaporating away, but it's also taking in so much material and energy that it's taking in more than what it's evaporating off. Anything larger than that is going to be more. It's going to take longer to evaporate off because it's taking more stuff and energy, material and energy, than it's going to be evaporating off, which is why they're not expecting to have any of those black holes that are at the center of galaxies. They're not going to evaporate away for, if you take 1 and put 1,000 zeros after the end of it, that's how long they expect those black holes to take to evaporate.
It's a long time.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah.
But if you have smaller black holes that are smaller than our star, they will start to evaporate away. And if you've got a black hole like the size that has the mass of a mountain, that will take a couple of hours to evaporate away. And you're not going to have anything smaller than that because really, really tiny black holes can evaporate as fast as they form. So there's a couple years ago, there were some physicists saying that they did not want the CERN reactor, the CERN collider in Switzerland to start up because they said it was going to create mini black holes that are going to
Oh
wipe
yeah, I
everything
remember
out.
that discussion.
Yeah, and all the other physicists were sitting there going, "Yeah, not going to happen." Because even if a black hole forms, which they didn't think it was going to, but even if it did form, it'd be small and evaporate instantly. Plus, it'd have the mass of a proton or an electron, and therefore would not be much of a black hole anyway. So, again, one of the things about the Hawking radiation, a smaller item will also start, the way it evaporates is it radiates out heat. So it wouldn't be producing light, but it'd be producing heat. So a black hole the size of a mountain would be producing as much heat as our sun would. But again, then it would evaporate away and just disappear. Any questions about that?
No,
Bobby?
but he wrote so many books. I'm
Yes,
just
he did.
surprised you're not talking about any of the other stuff he did. You know?
He wrote A Brief History of Time, which is a very famous book, and
Yep.
several other books. Did you have any questions about that?
Of course, there was a movie about his life. He has 3 kids, 3 grandkids. I mean, come on. He did for a man with ALS. He just did so. I mean, to me, that alone is
Well, I
the
mean,
fascination of his.
I don't think he
story.
was distracted by computer games like many of us are. One of the interesting facts about him is the computer voice he used for his wheelchair and that he spoke with, that was copyrighted to him. So nobody else is allowed to use that
Oh,
particular
really?
computer
It's also
voice.
an American accent too,
Yes.
instead
Yes,
of a
because it
British
was an
accent
American company that made the chair for
for
him.
him.
And towards the end, his ALS was so severe that he was only able to control his chair and the voice system or the voice synthesizer through one muscle in his cheek.
Oh, wow.
So if you ever look at some of the later pictures, you'll see a little wire going from his glasses down to his cheek.
Okay.
And that's the controller for the chair, and he's controlling it with one cheek muscle.
So
I wonder how
if
these
you
pictures-
Google him, it has all his contributions. The
Yeah,
the large scale structure of space time. You got, of course, Hawking's radiation, which Alex talked about. The Hawking-Penrose theorem. Don't know what that is. A lot of math involved in that one.
Yeah, well, there would be a lot of math involved.
Primordial fluctuation.
There's a ton of theorems that he's associated
Yeah,
with.
pretty amazing stuff here. Black hole information paradox. Wow. No boundary condition. Soft hair theorem. He never did win. Wow, you're right. He never did win a
Nobel Prize. Yeah.
Okay.
But he's got a ton of awards at the same
Well,
time.
yes.
You know, he's got all these other awards. It's curious.
Well, I mean, Nobel is going to be a little bit different than what people think. Nobel is not just because they're smart; it's because there's a specific
Contribution to society, I
well,
thought.
no,
No?
it's when it comes to the science stuff, it's stuff that has been proven, and that's why they try to award it like about a decade after the research was done. The reason is that in the early years of the Nobel Prize, they were caught out by giving the prize to people, and then they found out that their research was
Bogus?
incorrect.
Disproven.
Disproven.
Okay, disproven. Okay.
And so what they now do for any of the science awards, it's usually about 10 to 20 years after the initial research, because that's had time to be proven. And if it's been proven, that's when they'll award the award. A lot of Stephen Hawking stuff, like, for example, the Hawking radiation, it is very, very strongly suspected, but they don't have convincing enough proof to make it to say for sure if that is the case.
Okay.
All right. If you have any questions about this story, you can. Let's change it up a little bit. You can contact Bobby and ask her
Any of the biography questions about Stephen Hawking
about his kids, his
That you
birth
don't-
date, his
Yeah.
astrological sign.
If you don't want to Google it, just call up Bobby and Bobby will Google that for you.
Number here is 203
837
99.
24.